So if you guys saw the video I made about Dragon Ball Z Kai, you know that I watched that show, and that took me a long fucking time to get around to that. I had this very specific thing, like, I can't watch Kai. I don't want to watch Kai. I have the original in my head, and that's the way it's going to be. And I finally got over that and really enjoyed it. And honestly, it's the way I'll watch DBZ from now on. But in that video, I mentioned that I actually sat down and watched Dragon Ball GT from start to finish, something I've never done. I have seen chunks of it when it first aired on Toonami, DVDs that I got from Funimation back in the day, as well as occasionally looking at episodes online and seeing fight scenes and whatnot, enough to know that it wasn't really my thing and I kind of dreaded actually watching it, and so I just didn't. Even though I owned the DVDs because I'm an absurd completionist and kind of a moron when it comes to collecting anime, I just never got around to actually watching it, but that has since changed. A video like this is going to be very rare on my channel, and this isn't going to be some rage fest against Dragon Ball GT. I don't hate this show. It's just not really for me, and there's aspects about it that I like and mostly aspects about it that I don't like, and I'm just going to discuss some of those things because it's an anime from the 1990s, and I don't think I'm going to offend anyone by saying that Dragon Ball GT ain't that great. But then again, this is the internet, so you never know. Dragon Ball GT might be someone's favorite show out there. If it is your favorite show, I'm glad you enjoy it. I really am, and I hope that it has brought joy to your life. Since I'm kind of starting a little bit of a segment here with this finally watched idea, starting with Squid Game and then Dragon Ball Kai and now GT, I think it's a good idea to always explain at the start why it took me so long to watch something. In the case of GT, I've kind of alluded to it already. I gave it a fair shot a few times, and since I didn't really like what I saw, it made me scared. I love Dragon Ball so much that I didn't want to tarnish my viewpoint of it with something that I felt was inferior. I didn't want to have bad memories associated with Dragon Ball in any way except for that movie. That movie. But then I became a father. When you have kids, suddenly you're in one space a lot when they're very little. And you don't really leave that space. You're kind of just in that room for a long time, all night. And you have to take care of them, and they have to be changed, and they have to be fed every couple hours. And when you have twin boys like me, that's not just every couple hours. Sometimes it's every half hour or every hour because they're not going to wake up at the same times. So you're alternating feeding and changing and occasionally watching Dragon Ball GT because I'm sitting in front of this TV all night. It was a perfect opportunity for me to finally get around to it because I said to myself, if I'm going to be sitting in this room for the next few months, now's the time. If you don't know, Dragon Ball GT is of course the sequel show to the incredibly successful Dragon Ball Z. Now, unlike Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, this show is not based off of a manga from Akira Toriyama. This show was mostly made by Toei Animation. Akira Toriyama approved a few things like character designs and some concepts, and there was of course some overseeing that he did, but in general Toei Animation just kind of did their thing. Sometime around the year 2000, I was walking through the aisles of Blockbuster looking at video games for rent. I checked out the N64 section, and I went over to the PlayStation section. At the time, I remember being a little bitter about the fact that there were no Dragon Ball games available in the United States, until I came across a game called Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. It was released for PlayStation in America, staring me right in the face. I had no idea what I was looking at. I knew what Dragon Ball Z was, but what the fuck was Dragon Ball GT? Technically, my first exposure to this show was actually a video game. But the first thing I ever saw from the show, that's something else entirely. My first encounter with Dragon Ball GT back in the day was probably the worst thing I ever could have seen as someone who knew nothing about the show.
Step into the Grand Tour, Dragon Ball GT. Step into the Grand Tour, a brand new adventure begins. Another challenge for Goku and his friends. Now he's a Saiyan strong. Bila makes him a child again. The Dragon Balls are turning burning to end. World and everything within. The ultimate battle between good and evil. Who's gonna win when the sand clock dictates the consequence? Will I have the strength to be our last line of defense? Step into the Grand Tour, Dragon Ball GT.
Now to be clear, this is a really terrible American theme song. The actual Japanese theme song for Dragon Ball GT is my favorite thing about the show. It's great. The beginning of Dragon Ball GT is filled with episodes that Funimation originally said, nope, we're not going to do that. And they deleted the first, 15 or 16 episodes of Dragon Ball GT. I don't remember the exact number. And they just had it kind of start in the middle of another arc because they acknowledged that the first 20 episodes or so of GT are basically insufferable. Right at the start of Dragon Ball GT, Goku is turned into a little boy again, and he takes his granddaughter Pan and Trunks on a journey across the universe to locate the Black Star Dragon Balls so that he can become an adult once again. Vegeta has a mustache and short hair, and he's barely involved at all for the first 20 or 30 episodes of the show. Gohan is, of course, pushed to the background again, in what seems to be an attempt to take Dragon Ball back to basics and have a fun, adventure-filled series that resembles Dragon Ball. Okay, I get that, but it also feels like a betrayal to all of the development that those characters went through in Dragon Ball Z, to just say, you know what, let's just take you back to being a little boy, and we're gonna basically eliminate all supporting characters, but beyond that, the adventures they go on, they're not great. Pan gets mistaken for being like a bee, like a bumblebee. There's a really weird episode where this creepy guy wants to turn Pan into a doll for his collection. And then, of course, there's the Para Para brothers.
Boom, para, para, boom, pa, pa. Ha! Shake. Don't forget to smile. Don't forget to smile. What? Now shake it, right. Boom, para, para, boom, para, para, boom, para, para, boom, para, para. Respect the beat.
Why in the world are those guys dancing for us?
Yeah, this is messed up.
Toriyama's original manga for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z had tons of funny parts. It had tons of absurdist comedy and things like this. The problem is these guys show up a lot. They're in this a whole bunch. And this right here is the major reason why it took me so long to watch GT, because I would always get to around this point and just give up. I kept saying, no, just get to the stuff that everyone says gets better. And I just never could. I ended up watching random clips on YouTube of fights and thinking, I don't know if it's really worth it, and just giving up. But I'm sitting in this room, I'm taking care of my kids, and GT's on. So let's do it. Pushing towards the Baby Saga, this is where GT, you could say, picks up a bit. One of the better aspects of this show is the motivation behind Baby as a character. Baby was created by some of the last surviving scientists of the Tuffle race, a people who faced genocide from the Saiyans. This is great motivation for a villain. Obviously, revenge is involved in some way, but they've never really explored the fact that the Saiyans just went around blowing up planets and killing millions of people and creatures and aliens and all kinds of shit. And to finally acknowledge that in some way, to say that maybe a villain could spawn out of that scenario, that's very smart. And when Goku eventually transforms into Super Saiyan 4, this makes him look like an adult again. And there's aspects of this character design that I like a lot. I like that he maintains some hair around his shoulders that sort of is a callback to the great ape form. But in general, I felt nothing when this transformation occurred. Not only was the sequence pretty weak, it didn't feel like Goku really strived for anything. Transformations in Z were always linked to a lot of struggle and a lot of work and pain. Almost always in some way pain or a sense of loss. Something really important had to happen in the narrative for a transformation to really carry some weight. And this was just like, hey, he's got a new form. Oh. Okay. And when I was watching the Baby Saga, I remember thinking, this is the saga that people are saying is the best. Uh-oh. Looking back on it, it is. It has some fun moments, like characters are doing things, and at the very least there's something emotional happening under the surface, barely, in that Baby is a character that comes from severe hatred of the Saiyans and Goku's fighting him, and so like there's something happening there, but it's not interesting for our protagonists. It's only interesting for the villain. The biggest issue I have with GT, beyond any narrative stuff really, or boring episodes, is that if you really just have one job when it comes to making a Dragon Ball property, if you just want to forget about everything that of course is important, if you have just one job, It's to depict compelling fight scenes. The fight scenes in GT are incredibly boring from a choreography perspective. Most of the time, it's beams. I can't tell you how many times Goku does Kamehameha in this show over and over and over again. It's so overused. It was the kind of thing in Z that whenever he did it, it was really awesome because he doesn't do it that much and it would just happen at a very important moment. In GT, it felt like he did it every episode. It just kept happening over and over again, and the actual hand-to-hand combat rarely showed itself. Suddenly a show that felt like it had some of the best martial arts hand-to-hand combat fight scenes in anime history, if not the best, was mostly just about beams. Eventually, we get to Super Android 17. This saga is insanely short, and it felt like a desperate, last-ditch effort from Toei Animation to bring back Z fans by having a recurring character from the old show come back, but sort of different. And somehow, despite there at least being action sequences, I think I actually prefer the Black Star Dragon Ball saga that the show starts with over this, because this feels like the definition of the worst kind of fan service that could ever exist. Because not only is it not pleasing, fan service usually at the very least is fun. It feels like someone at Toei who was completely detached from the Dragon Ball fandom said, people like Android 17, we'll just bring them back and they'll fight, right? That'll give us a few episodes. Will push us a little bit further along in the episode run. After this, we get GT's final arc, the Shadow Dragon saga, and an actual good idea once again emerges. And that is that the constant misuse of Earth's Dragon Balls, wish after wish after wish, has created evil dragons who are ready to fuck everything up. Toei's best ideas with this show seem to have come from looking at Z and saying, what did people do that wasn't great? And then finding a way to make villains out of those scenarios. Eventually, Omega Shenron becomes the final baddie, and Super Saiyan 4 Goku has a really tough time with him until Vegeta shows up and finally does something. He completely skips the Super Saiyan 3 transformation and jumps right over to 4. Vegeta is such a great character. He has so much depth to him, and he's one of the most interesting characters, if not the most interesting in all of Dragon Ball. For him to achieve this transformation because Bulma, his wife, invented something called the Blutz wave generator or something, where this machine she made can sort of simulate the moon that would transform Saiyans into great apes, that energy, that device being the thing that allows Vegeta to achieve this form, is a really bad idea. I'll just put it that way. It's sad. It's like, why did you do that? Vegeta's a character that trains his ass off for everything, and the only time he uses technology is when he can basically train with it. I mean, like the gravity simulator that Bulma has. But that's just a device that allows him to train and get stronger for himself. It's not a magical switch that can be flipped that just makes him into what he wants to be. So the two of them fuse and you get Gogeta and they fight Omega Shenron and eventually he dies. And that's it for GT. The thing I will say about GT is it has an okay ending. It has like a nice ending, I guess, where you think, oh, look, the characters are doing things that make me smile. But again, I really just felt nothing. It's a 64 episode run, which is very short, especially for Dragon Ball standards. It was canceled because of divisive public reactions or whatever. But I've said a lot about Dragon Ball GT in this episode, but honestly, I look back on the time watching it with joy. Part of that is because I link it with the experience of figuring out what being a dad is like, learning how to care for my children, and staying up all night with them watching cartoons and anime. And I'm sure that when I'm older, I'm going to look back on those times with a smile. In fact, I already am. I'm going to try to do more videos like this in the future when I think of something that I've always wanted to talk about that I never got around to, or something I should have watched and I haven't yet. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.